Now, you mentioned before, let's take something concrete. You mentioned before correctly that the protesters, the right-wing protesters, are denouncing government. Well, where does that come from? Since the Second World War, there has been a massive propaganda campaign, huge propaganda campaign, run by the business world to try to make people hate government. But it's ambivalent, because at the same time, those same sectors want a strong government, powerful state, one that works for them. When they're trying to get people to hate government, they want them to hate things like services that the government provides for the population. But they're not opposed to the government, the powerful government that works for them. I mean, take, say, Ronald Reagan again. He's called a conservative, but that's ridiculous. He was the most protectionist president in post-war American history. He virtually doubled protective barriers to try to protect incompetent U.S. management from being overrun by, at that time, Japanese competitors. Government actually grew on his watch. He was an advocate of big government, but big government that serves the rich and the powerful. And he left the country with a huge deficit, a major crisis, the savings and loan crisis, not quite as bad as this one, but pretty severe. Began deregulation, all in the interests of concentrated sectors of power. He also he sort of pressed forward the program of massive incarceration of poor and defenseless people. It turns out mostly blacks. So the incarceration rate when he came in was approximately the same as Europe, maybe a little to the high end. By the time he was gone, it was out of sight. It increased further under the same tendencies increased under Clinton. They're still going on. But Reagan drove it that way. Actually, and you mentioned something about the internet before. Where'd that come from? I mean, that didn't come from private enterprise. That come from state intervention in the economy. It was Pentagon supported. In fact, it was developed right where I was at MIT. Same as computers, same with lasers, containers that are the basis of trade, microelectronics, biotechnology.
Are you saying technology is value neutral, basically, when it's invented? Or created?
Well, in a sense, it's value neutral, but in a society that had no structure, it would be value neutral. But in a society that has structure, it's not value neutral. But it didn't come, to a substantial extent, it came from a powerful state intervening in the economy and pursuing a program which amounts to, it's pretty close to saying that the public pays the costs and takes the risks and eventual profit is privatized. Well, that's big government. And you can be sure that the corporate sponsors of the right-wing movements don't want to stop that. They want to keep it going.